Masterclass. Tara Christianson will be speaking to us about the importance of building a brand online. So as you heard, this meeting will be recorded. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ryan Smits and I'm a Senior Account Manager here in Melbourne. Now, I know it goes without saying, it's been a really interesting year. And for those of you who are in Melbourne, it's been great to get outdoors again without a mask. And whoever thought we'd be saying that's, it's been one interesting year, that's for sure. But pandemic aside, there's definitely been some positives for the industry. The home builder scheme has been incredibly successful and we all welcome the recent news of the government extending their support here. From a consumer point of view, Australia's interest in property has reached new heights. And as we've spent the whole lockdown dreaming of a new place to call home, what better place to look for property? We've seen record numbers come to our site throughout the year and over 12 million Australians visiting us every month. So I'll kick it off. I'll throw it to you, Tara. But please remember, there will be time at the end with Q&A, and both for Tara and myself, we'll be able to answer those questions that you may have. There will be a poll at the end also, so please stick around for that. Thanks and enjoy the masterclass.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ryan. Really appreciate it. And thanks to y'all for joining me and us today. I get to nerd out, which is my favorite thing to do, and get to talk about branding online. And so a little bit about me. As you can tell, I do not have an Australian accent. It is an American accent. And I'm almost proud enough to say that once again. And it's exciting because I have a real estate background. I started in the United States in 2006 as a full-time real estate agent. And I continued that through to 2012 when I transitioned over into training technology, digital media, digital marketing to real estate agents, over 600 for quite some time, actually, in one of the companies that I worked with. And so that transition, of course, into what I'm currently doing right now with realestate.com.au, which is continuing some of that education and that training and that real estate and that digital marketing and how powerful it really can be. And it really can. And I'm going to be talking about some of the ways that I hope that you can find that you're going to be able to use this in your business, not only why it's important, but how you can then use this in your business as well. So the rise of online marketing. Now, I think we all can agree that we probably are using the internet more than ever, and don't worry about it because you're not alone in all of this. Nearly 99% of Australians access the internet in the previous 6 months. And of course, we know what caused that. And it's just, it's fascinating though, because that's the behavior and that's where people are really searching for information, where they're really looking. And that's perfect. That is wonderful for you, because that means that there's targeted marketing that you can really focus on across those channels. There's flexibility, so you can really start to kind of adjust to market conditions or to new news really quickly, where, you know, if you think about like when you went to go print something or even print a sign, you had to wait, you had to get it approved, then you had to wait for it to be done and printed, and then you put it up. And sometimes by the time that information was there, that information had changed already. And what's wonderful about online marketing is that information can be changed in real time and can be acknowledged in real time. And so it's so exciting to have that flexibility across those channels. It invites mobile engagement. I don't know about y'all, but I mean, I have 2 of these sitting next to me right now, and that's not even the tablet that's also with me. There's a lot of mobile engagement that's happening, and people have these in their hands next to them almost all the time. And so you want to be able to take advantage of that. That faster to market, of course, goes along with that flexibility. So you are able to push things out very quickly, and also to see whether or not that you get that return on investment that you're looking for. And that's also because it's very easy to measure your efforts in that online marketing space. And so when you are measuring those and you're looking at the numbers, it's actually really much easier to be able to track and to be able to see, are those efforts paying off? Is what you've put into it paying off with the return that you wanted or that you were expecting out of it? And finally, it also helps maintain that top of mind awareness. And this, we're going to talk about why that's so important throughout all of this. But that top of mind awareness is just so important because you do want people to feel like they see you and your brand everywhere. And if there's a specific product that you're marketing in a specific area, you want that also to be everywhere. And that's not just in our traditional traditional marketing that we may be used to, that's also in our online marketing space as well. Because remember, we want to capture people where they are. And if people are less mobile in the fact that they're going outside and doing things, and they're more actually engaged in this online world, we want to make sure that we're capturing them both in that normal space that we might be more used to, as well as in this online space as well. So we're going to be talking about some of those spaces, especially that you should be thinking about taking advantage of, because they are so important and because that's where people are expecting it and that's what people are used to. Now, along the line of that, so that online marketing is very important, but so is the online presence. And online presence is really just that. It's, are you online? Can people find you when you're online? And that can be a brand, that can be product, that can be all sorts of kinds of information that's associated with you and your business. Now, when you have that strong online presence, it enhances accessibility. And so it really makes people feel like you are something or someone that they can reach out to at any given time. And in this day and age, that's more important than ever, is having that kind of feeling that you're always there, or that you're always able to be asked questions and that you're able to deliver answers to those questions. Along the way, even though you might be specifically targeting a very specific audience, what's amazing is that a lot of times you're actually attracting people outside of that as well. So you're actually bringing people in and attracting attention and bringing kind of awareness to people that you may not have even expected. And of course, we all know that that is actually really great, is building a bigger audience along the way. This third part is really fascinating to me because, again, remember, I started in real estate as well. And to me, relationships are built face to face. They're built with that trust factor. But the shift in human behavior is actually that people feel like they've got a relationship. They feel like they can start to trust a brand, a name, a product from the things that they read on the internet. And it's fascinating that that's happened, because we know that sometimes the internet can be a little bit fallible. But when we're controlling the message that's out there, and we have a consistent message that's going out there, we can deliver actually that trust factor and start to build that relationship so that it keeps a buyer, even if they're at the beginning of a journey, through and interested in you all the way through to the end of that journey. Because online, a lot of times, is where interest is captured first. It's where decisions are made. And so we really need to think about, how are we doing that? And then are we making sure that we're building those relationships and trust along the way? Now, we should definitely have both paid and unpaid. That's what organic means, marketing opportunities. And you should have that built in for whatever your budget is, or whatever the budget is for maybe a specific project that you're working on. And the paid, of course, is wonderful stuff, because that gives you that immediate feedback, that gives you kind of that immediate gratification of, yep, that worked, and let's see what else we've got out there. But paid only works as long as you're paying for it. So you also want something that's got a foundation behind it, the unpaid side of it. And that's also, even though it's a longer game, a lot of times, sometimes it can take up to 6 months for some specific content to actually start to resonate. The thing is, it continues then to work for you time and time and time again. And remember, relationships and trust aren't necessarily just an immediate thing. Sometimes we do need to have that time to build that in. So thinking of ways that you can include that as well is very important. And then finally, another step with the online presence is that you get to listen to your audience. So you actually get that feedback that you may not necessarily always get, or maybe that you've been wanting in the past, is that you finally get to get some of that feedback. And the thing is, you don't even necessarily have to ask for it. Sometimes they just give it anyway. And yes, sometimes there's what we might consider as negative feedback. But the thing is, if you can address all of these issues, both positive and negative, earlier in the journey, then you can actually deliver a better result for any buyer that's interested moving forward. And that's going to be amazing for your brand. Now, if you don't believe me for any of these other stuff that's here, how about this? From our Developer Insight series, we also know that 82% of house and land buyers want to research themselves. So they want to do their own research before they even start to talk to a professional. And we know overwhelmingly they start that journey, they start that research in that online world. So if nothing else, that's a really incredible reason why having that is important. Now, I keep talking about this buyer journey, and I just want to refresh you from that developer insight series and that buyer research that we've shared in the past, is how long that journey really is, right? Is that can start up to 20 months down the road, and it takes a while before they actually even start to narrow things down. Think about some of the bigger purchases that you may have made in the past, how long it kind of took from that initial idea or even that concept or that seed that was planted all the way to the actual time that you started to get serious and learn more and start to narrow down some of your focus, and then to actually go through the process of thinking about whether or not you're going to purchase it. This is the same if you think about that from that buyer journey. But the big thing in here is that if you've been kind of sitting and thinking in specific projects or in specific places and being very focused and kind of had those almost like blinders on so that you can just really kind of narrow everything down, I need you to think bigger. I need you to think broader, because if this journey starts this long and if it's this big, we really need to want to capture them from that first interest point, from that first time that seed was planted all the way through to the end. And you want to be that choice for them all the way through. So again, we will be talking about some of the things and ways that you can do that. The other thing that you need to think about is that sometimes there's just too many choices that are out there. And if we don't have enough differentiation between those choices that are out there, and that could be between products and that could be between brands. So we have to think about, how are we differentiating ourselves so that it's actually really easy to make that choice that's there for people? So I want you to be able to answer these questions, not just when somebody walks into a demo home or when somebody rings you up or somebody contacts you. I want you to be thinking about, are you delivering the answers to these questions in some of the content, both paid and unpaid, that you're delivering in this online space? What makes your product stand out? And when trying to decide between two builders, why does the buyer choose you? Now, again, I know that when you're actually face to face or when you're kind of confronted with this question with one specific person, you're able to probably answer this question pretty easily. And maybe you even have some of this information already in some of your brochures. But you need to think about how you're actually delivering this across a number of pieces of the content that's out there, across a number of these channels that are out there. Why do people choose you at the end of the day? What makes you stand out? Because that differentiation from that first part of the buyer journey is going to be so important as you move forward. Now, we also know that there are certain factors, of course, that people are considering in that journey. And some of the main ones, of course, include quality, price, product, and service. So again, these things need to be communicated. Now, to refresh as well, quality is just having, is the quality of previously built homes or the quality, look, and feel of display homes that are there as well. So thinking about how are you delivering that information? And again, it's not just when somebody's focused very specifically on that one specific product or place. You need to be thinking about, how is that being delivered across the different content that's out there? Because we want to really transform buyers. We want to take them from that uncertain place that they are, where they're nervous and they're confused and they're not sure. And we want to take them and make them feel more empowered. And so we can do that by expressing those qualities across and capturing those people a lot earlier in their journey. So taking them from that awareness stage all the way down into that purchase stage and making them feel really empowered all the way through it. What your goal really should be is that from that first start, they make a decision about you, and whether it's about a specific home or whether it's about you as their builder. From that point forward, anything else that they see marketing wise, whether it's paid or unpaid, is just a validation of that choice that they've already instinctively made. So if you can do that, you're going to make them feel confident through the process. And that will really not only build new brand ambassadors for you, but also will help them feel more confident themselves in what they've done and probably lead to easier transactions down the line. So thinking about this from a marketing standpoint, you're probably thinking, okay, well, how are we going to shift some of our marketing? Or maybe, you know, there's specific marketing that you've got out there that's really targeted specifically to people, but there's actually two types of marketing out there that you should be thinking about. The lead generation one is the one that we're most used to. It's the one that we really think about when we think marketing, online marketing, especially because it's very promotional. It's very tactically based. It's really focused on gathering leads and getting those people in there. And the branding side, though, is that always on. That's that profile. That's that, oh, I remember that name. Oh, I saw that name somewhere. Oh, I remember I've seen features of that home before. Is that builder? Seeing those kinds of things time and time again helps not just that lead generation for a specific product that you may be trying to sell, but also helps with the brand building. So that ongoing profiling that's out there. And the thing is, you want to have both because the branding really helps with that trust and that credibility. And if you don't have consistency there, you're going to erode some of that away. So then you have to just kind of keep delivering, building, keep delivering and building instead of just letting it sit there as a foundation for you that's always working for you in the background. The other side of it, of course, is getting those leads, but then of course nurturing those leads. And the thing is, of course, in any kind of business, we want to have a full funnel pretty much all the time. We want to have a full pipeline, especially if a journey is as long as that. We need to be capturing people and having people in the different stages all the way along the line in our database. So we really need to think about what is it that we've got that's ongoing, that's got that consistency, both in that branding space in that for marketing, but also in that lead generation as well. And that leads to kind of the pièce de résistance, which is the digital footprint, right? And these are all the places online that you could be taking advantage of, that you could be leveraging right now for that business and for both of that brand building, but also for that lead generation space as well. Listings, I think I don't think I need to go into much detail with that. Google, of course, is where people go to search, especially when they don't have a lot of information. So we'll talk about some of the things there. Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, there's reasons that those are there. We'll talk about two different kinds of ads that you could be taking advantage of. Email marketing, which is still very strong, editorial content, which really feeds into that storytelling that people really respond to. And video is more important than ever for that. So really thinking about not just what channels are going to be right for people, but here's the other thing is that when you have specific ad content, it can be really tempting sometimes to take one piece of content that you've created and then just spread it everywhere and hope that it works. The thing is, each one of these places actually requires specific content and it requires specific kind of knowledge of the audience that's there. And so making sure that you have content that's relevant to the channels and the placement that's there is more important than ever when it comes to this digital footprint. So of course, we'll start off with Google. And with Google, as you can see, 91% of buyers use online as their method of research. Remember, I was talking about how they go online and they're really focusing on research for their decision making. And I know I'm paid by them, but it's true. We know for a fact, realestate.com.au is the main source of buyers' research. And so knowing especially how your brand and products are being presented on that channel, because we know that people are going into Google to find this information. And a lot of times this is one of the first places that's going to come up. This is one of the first places that people are going to visit. And then also knowing the other spaces that come up as well. So when people are putting information about you into Google, what kind of keywords are associated with your brand? What kind of words are they using to find you in the first place? And remember that differentiation standpoint. If they have a couple of choices that come up, why do they choose you? Why do they click and say you instead? And again, it's going to come down to answering those questions that I posed earlier in this, and being able to put that into some of those online spaces that people are visiting. So not just knowing what people see, but then making sure that you're addressing some of that information and also making sure that you've got information for each stage of that buyer journey that's there. So you've got some overall information so that people start to narrow down their search and go, no, actually, I want to focus on this specific area to buy in. Or no, you know what? You are the builder of my choice. This is why I'm going to be choosing you. These are the reasons. And remember, also addressing that quality piece is going to be a very important part of that as well. So thinking about the ways that you're going to be delivering that information in these spaces, it's important. The next one, of course, is going to be Facebook. And the reason for Facebook is because it's a huge demographic. There's 16 million active Facebook users in Australia. It's also because it's a very large age demographic as well. So, you're really reaching anybody from 20 to over 60 with this. And some of the rising channels in this are actually some of that older demographic as well. So really kind of understanding, the placement of ads on this, having that mixture of both paid and unpaid content that's going to be on here, whether you have Facebook pages running, whether you've got some paid advertising that you're there, being consistently present. And consistency, I kind of talk about this a lot, and the reason is it's important. But on Facebook, consistency can scare us because we think consistency on social media means that we have to be consistently posting something on social media constantly. And while that may be true or easier to do from that advertising standpoint for that non-paid content, sometimes that can be a challenge because we don't have time, or we don't want to focus on it, or we're not sure what to post. Here's the good news with consistency. Consistency with Facebook and Instagram and those channels simply means that you have times and days that you are consistently posting, and whether that's every Monday or every Monday and Friday, and there's a theme or there's some kind of rhythm that you're going to get into with some of that content that you're posting, that's not only kind of teaching Facebook that, no, I am here and I am always there for you, but it's also teaching the people who are coming to those pages or looking for some information from you on Facebook that they're able to get the information that they're looking for. There should be a mix of content that's being put on there, from video and just written copy, static advertising, moving GIFs. So, those anything that moves, basically, that catches people's eye. Live is also important. So the video that you have that's also live can also be really important from that unpaid aspect. But also from the advertising space, Facebook is awesome because it really allows you some really great targeting opportunities to capture buyers across that whole funnel that we were talking about. Now, that's the great part about Facebook. The challenge with Facebook is that they keep changing their algorithms. So they keep kind of moving the cheese, and it can be really difficult sometimes to keep up with all of the changes that they're making. Some of them you'll see visually. Some of them you'll find out as kind of like a little surprise sometimes. For example, Facebook ads, the platform. I don't know if you've ever logged into the back end of Facebook ads or the Facebook Business Manager, but when you're in that platform, if you're not really positive about what's going on there, it can be a challenge to navigate. It's not exactly user-friendly, first of all. Second of all, there's always the chance that Facebook could, again, move the cheese. And for example, I have a United States account with Facebook, and now what they've done is they've taken away my ability to specifically target postcodes. So I can only get within a specific radius of that postcode. And there's certain words that I'm actually forbidden from using, especially in the real estate space. And so that can really make trying to market specifically and target really specifically to people difficult. The other thing is that I don't know if you were tried to post a Facebook ad yourself over the last month, but Facebook ads had a glitch where they actually started to block users out of their account when they went to go and post an ad. And if you've ever had any issues with your Facebook account in the past, you know that it can be quite some time before you actually get access back. And so I know several people who are still struggling to make that happen because they don't have the contacts. It's really difficult for them. So I've given you the pluses, I've given you the minuses. The solution, if you're looking for it, of course, is to work with people who actually have a relationship with Facebook in some way and who can navigate some of that space for you so that you can concentrate on the stuff that you actually want to concentrate on instead. And so realestate.com.au, of course, has you have the ability to purchase Facebook advertising as well as Instagram advertising through REA. So you not only get the benefits of our social and well as our audience, but we also will figure out all of that hard stuff, especially when the algorithms change and when, Facebook ads get locked down and all of those things happen with Facebook, is that's actually there for you. So just keep that in mind if if Facebook is of interest to you and Facebook advertising is of interest to you. The next one is LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is a little bit more specific because this is more targeted to those professionals, people in a professional mindset, less of that let me share cat video type of things, and more of the professionals in business to business or business to client conversations. And so this is it's a great way for businesses to be found because it's an authoritative place. Google looks at it as one of those authorities in the space, a trusted authority. If you are going to be posting just unpaid content there, then you're going to want to switch up some of that content using carousels. So that means multiple photos. They don't actually rotate through, but it invites engagement from the people who are looking at it. And you can upload videos as well. So you can actually build some of that into it. You can look for more people that you want to necessarily be connected to from either a company page or from a personal profile yourself through your search. LinkedIn search, if you haven't played around with it before, is extremely powerful. And it's really interesting how targeted that you can get. And this could be for referral sources, so from solicitors or accountants that are in different areas, all the way to maybe specific people that you're trying to reach within different businesses. LinkedIn does have the ability to go live, and there are stories that are available through the LinkedIn app. And some people use them, some people don't. I haven't seen it done well yet. However, here's my challenge, I guess, to you, is if you decide that you are going to start to use LinkedIn Live or LinkedIn Stories, send it along to me. I would love to see it. And I would also love to use you as an example moving forward of how creative and some of the ways that people can creatively use it. Because right now, I'm just unfortunately not seeing it. And then finally with LinkedIn is that you do have the ability to take advantage of targeting as well. So you can do some really great targeting with advertisements on that space. And what's really cool about that too is that if you can think about it, when people make changes in their lives, when people make adjustments or transitions, a lot of times they also change their job. And a lot of times that means that they're moving from one place to another. And one of the first places that they do that is they update their online resume, and that's in LinkedIn. So it actually can give you some of the signals as well of people who are moving in or out of spaces using that. Now, if you're interested at all, LinkedIn basically said, look, if you really want to maximize your use of us, you really should be serving content with people that you know and talking about things that you care about. What they're really saying about that is making those connections with people, continuing to engage, but also focusing on things that make you or establish you as the trusted authority in your space. So really, talk about industry trends and what that actually means for people. Talk about some of the articles that are being talked about, whether it's in the newspaper or on television or on radio, and then give your viewpoint of that or what that might mean for people who are investing in your products. So talk about some of those ways that people can really take advantage of some of those spaces, and don't be afraid to use that. And if you can, get a comment within the first 30 minutes, because that does seem to help just with your overall reach and expanding that to other people and getting their attention. Instagram, a little bit smaller, as you can see in that active user space across Australia. A little bit in that kind of more specific demographic, largely between the ages of 20 and 45. Of course, there's people in and outside of that, but that seems to be kind of the major focus for everybody. It should be an Instagram business profile that you're using for that brand building, but also so that you can get access to insights, so that you can get access to information. Now, you could do this for specific projects, or you could do this for your own brand as well. Remember, there's only one link that's available clickable to people in the bio to find out more information about you. To take advantage of that, you might want to look at companies like Linktree is one of them. Another one is campsite.bio. What that allows you to do is create just one link that's there, but when somebody clicks on it, it actually opens up and you can choose, okay, I want you to find out more about us, or I want you to take a look inside one of our homes, or I want you to read some testimonials, or I want you to do this. So you can actually provide different levels of information for people no matter where they are in their journey, so that you're actually capturing everybody just from that one link. Direct messages. So Instagram's really about engagement. And so one of the ways that you can kind of not cheat the system, but help the system along, instead of you should be answering or replying to everybody who necessarily responds on any of your posts, but you can also take some of your followers and directly message them. And this is another way that you can show Instagram that you are actually engaging with them. And this in turn can then help with some of that reach that you might be looking for. Hashtags are very important, and those can be very specific hashtags. So something that's specific to your name or branding or a slogan perhaps that you've got that you use time and again to identify yourself, but then also thinking broader from that as well. So capturing people who might just be researching within a specific area, or might just be looking in one general, or for one general thing or another. So taking advantage of some of those hashtags that are there. Instagram's got a lot of spaces that you can take advantage of. So there's the feed, which is what you see when you first log in, stories, which is quicker and kind of provides that really quick information. And so that's really great for just delivering little snapshots, updates, and also inviting that engagement, providing polls, stickers, those kinds of things. And then there's the video component. So Instagram Live, where you can actually go live on Instagram TV, which is longer form video content up to 15 minutes. And then Reels, which is kind of their version of TikTok, which is 15 to 30 seconds. And short form video content moving forward, especially moving into 2021, with the platforms that have come out between TikTok and Instagram, Reels, as well as Snapchat's got into it as well, is that it's teaching people to really absorb information through some of that short form video content. So really thinking about ways that you're going to be able to do that. And again, you can run that targeting advertising on Instagram, but you have to use that Facebook platform to do it. So pros and cons, just like I talked about earlier. With ads in general, though, we really need to be thinking, again, like I talked about before, not just in that lead generation space, but also in that brand building space. So lead generation is really where you're collecting information about people, where you, who click on those ads, and that's those potential customers. And that's a fantastic way to really capture specific information. You can reach people and your desired customers and target those people very specifically. The thing that you need to always remember with those lead generation ads is making sure that if they are not in that immediate buy feel, that you have something set in place, you have a system set in place where you can nurture those people and continue them on that funnel down the chain until they come to that specific purchase place. On the other side of things, though, is that brand building space. And I know this is a little bit more difficult concept for people. So I always talk about it like this. You're driving down the road and you see billboards, and you've got billboards that are there and you see it, and there's a message there. Sometimes there's contact information, but a lot of times there's a message, there's an image, and there's a logo or a brand that's there, and you see it and you see it and you see it. Now, my guess is that when you see those, you don't necessarily immediately pull over to the side of the road to take down more information about that. You see it, you acknowledge it, it's kind of left an impression with you. You're kind of subconsciously taking it in. That's what brand building ads do in that online space. View them as those digital billboards where people drive by them, right, as they're surfing or as they're going through different pieces of content on different channels. And they're they just see that information and they just subconsciously absorb it. And so all of a sudden, all of those contacts, all of those kind of times that you can capture people, some people say it takes up to 7 or 10 times sometimes for people to see information before they actually act upon it, is that allows you to really keep that top of mind status there. You can build reputation within a specific area. It really also helps with that customer retention. So if you've caught them towards the beginning of that journey, you can really keep them moving along just by having some of those brand building ads that are there. And of course, you can promote those across different channels as well. So that's really an important part. So really be thinking in your advertising space, how are you using both of these? And do you have both of these as part of your digital strategy moving forward? The next one is, it's a very fancy name, an EDM. It's an electronic direct mail is what that stands for. We'll just simplify that and say email marketing. Why email marketing? Because there's a lot out there, right? There's a lot of emails that are out there that are being sent. But what's amazing is that when you get cut through with email, is not only people expected, and it's one of the easiest ways to get cut through with people across a very wide demographic. It's easy to do, it's easy to create, it's easy to measure, it's easy to optimize. You get a really great return on your investment for it, and people can access it pretty much anywhere. And it's one of the things that people really are checking over and over and over again. So as a treat to you, I asked one of our email marketing gurus in the realestate.com.au for some tips, what she found when she's been sending out emails and what some of those insights are. And she gave me some that I'm going to share with you today. So one is that call to action buttons. So actual buttons that are placed within that email marketing work better than when you just hyperlink text. So when you just have a link to, with the text that people were going to click on. So when you actually have a button that's built into it, people visually see it, but also are more likely to click on it. That you want to put some of the most important information above the fold. So just like with newspapers where we try to get everything above the fold, the same is true for the content that you're including in your email marketing, is that you want to have the most important information up there first, and then kind of everything underneath it. You want to make sure that it's mobile responsive and that it also looks the same for different email clients. So whether it's Outlook or Gmail or another email client that's out there, that everything is being delivered. Because remember, again, this is another impression for your brand. It's not just a delivery of information. This is an overall impression of your brand. And this continues to help with that trust building and the relationship building that's there. So making sure that those work for you is important. Realestate.com.au, at least this part of it, uses Litmus. That's how she's able to preview emails to make sure that no matter who opens them on what email client, it looks great. And then the last part is the segmentation and delivery to each. And by the way, the exclamation points negative effect, that's in the subject line. So your subject line is that headline, right? That's what grabs people. But a lot of times spam is associated with exclamation points. And so there are some email clients that actually will kind of give you negative points if you include exclamation points in the subject line. But that final piece, that segmentation and delivery, is more important than ever, because especially as we're moving into 2021, people are looking for individualization and personalization. And it's something that we should be able to do with our contact management systems that are out there, but it's just so essential these days. And if you think that it's hard for you, well, how am I going to write something that I make sure that it resonates with my audience and with that specific audience? I'm just going to tell you a very short story on individualization and personalization. If there's a guy out there, his name is Warren Buffett. If you're not familiar with him, he's a billionaire. He has Berkshire Hathaway, so stocks and all sorts of things, real estate companies. He's everywhere. He sends out one of the most well-read shareholders letters that's out there. And there's a reason, is because before he sends it out, he erases 4 words from the top. And those 4 words are Dear Doris and Bertie. And Doris and Bertie are Warren Buffett's sisters, who are also shareholders in Berkshire Hathaway. And so when he sits down to write his shareholder letter, He doesn't write them to everybody. He's not trying to make everybody happy that's out there. What he's doing instead is he's sitting there and he's saying, I'm just going to write this to my sisters, and everybody else basically will then get it. That's what targeting can do. That's what individualization and personalization can do. Because the thing is, even pieces of it resonate with people because they know it's being written for a person and not just for an audience. So really thinking about how you're going to incorporate those qualities, not just in your email marketing moving forward, but also across all of your marketing is more important than ever. But especially if you're trying to get that cut through in that email marketing, having that segmentation is so important. Editorial and sponsored content. This is your storytelling space. So this is where you can really build in a lot more of that trust and that awareness and consideration. It can be through long content. You could have just short form content, but this is that emotional aspect. This is that storytelling aspect. You can educate, you can entertain, you can inform. There's some subtle maybe promotion of a product placement that might be there. You're amplifying your brand. So then again, they're associating with a wider space. You're capturing people who may not necessarily be way down that buyer chain, but they're still in that interested, or they're still looking for information. This really just kind of, or that awareness stage, right? So where they're just becoming aware of who you are. And it's also, it allows you to get into channels and have placement in channels that's less intrusive. So it's not just an ad that's on the side that people may or may not see. We hope that they see it, of course, but it's also that you are able to be front and center and really be part of the channel that you're using at the time. So thinking about ways that you can incorporate that editorial and sponsored content is important. Video. Video is one of the strongest things that has grown. I've been talking about it for years. It's fantastic that people are finally starting to embrace it, partly because of channels like this. One of the great things is that it doesn't have to be a Hollywood or production. You know, you're not going to get a logie for it at the end of it. What's fantastic about this is that people are used to that kind of more realistic video, and sometimes they expect it more. It makes people actually feel like they can trust something more, depending on how and when you're using it. That live video component that I talked about with Facebook is just important across the board as well, because again, it gives people kind of that feeling of immediacy. It gives you the ability to have that flexibility to really address something very quickly, but also it just also gives people that feeling of a relationship that's being built there. Caption videos though. Over 80% of people on Facebook and over 70% of people in the world watch videos with the sound off. So if you are going to be creating videos, you need to make sure that they have captions with them so that you're capturing their attention and they're really kind of paying attention, no matter if they've got the sound on and off, but also for people with hearing impairment as well, so that you're making sure that you're really getting out to a diverse audience. What's nice too, though, is that you can actually also get transcripts done of those videos, and then you can transform some of that into content. So I love videos because they're just so rich in general that you can take a longer video and chop it into short videos and use that in different channels. You could use it in advertising. You can take the transcript and create content, blog posts, and editorial content and all sorts of things from it. And then, of course, having that caption video that's there as well. So think about ways that you really can leverage video moving forward in your business. So that's a lot, isn't it? It's a lot. These are the things, these are the resources it comes down to: time, people, and money. Those are the resources that you have. So you need to be able to ask yourself, which one of these or which of these are you able to invest in right now? And which do you want to invest moving forward, especially as we're entering into 2021 and moving forward from that? I'm going to guess that you're not going to answer time, right? Which leaves, of course, people and money. And when you're investing in people or money, you really want to make sure that you're getting a good return on your investment. So really thinking about how you're going to be focusing that forward, how you're going to be moving that forward is more than important than ever. Now at realestate.com.au, we have all sorts of products that will help you across that line. So for everything that I talked about today, there's all sorts of products that are there that you can take advantage of. Now, I've heard that people love audience extension, especially. The challenge sometimes, though, is that that's all you focus on, is like you invest in that and then you walk away and say, I did it. I'm part of a digital strategy. And I really want you to think, remember, bigger and broader. I want you to think bigger and broader moving forward. How are you going to make this part of an ongoing, consistent strategy? So it's part of a holistic strategy that you have between digital and whatever you're doing in the offline space as well. How are you going to incorporate that? So thinking about how you're going to take some of these and really move this forward is going to be important. So take charge of that digital marketing, understand its importance, make sure that you're incorporating both that brand building as well as that lead generation marketing. Remember that you need to start delivering your messaging early in the buyer journey and then lead them down the path to the finished product, because that's where they feel empowered, not just in their research, but also in their ultimate decision making. And then they become a brand ambassador for life. And that's a fantastic thing to be. So thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it. Ryan's going to come back on and let me know if there's been any questions that have come through. And please take our poll as well. We would appreciate it. That's on your screen at the moment.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking us through that, Tara. That was incredibly insightful. Even I've taken some notes, but we have a couple of Q&A questions that have come through from some attendees. So I'll throw it over to you for the first one. I think you touched on it a little bit. I actually took a note around control and consistency of messaging, but the question that's come through is, how important is consistency and what can go wrong?
Consistency is really important because it's not just from a machine standpoint, so from a search engine optimization standpoint, or from a specific channel standpoint. So I talked about, it's important for Facebook or Instagram to have that consistency so that you keep your reach, you keep your audience, you keep growing. But it's also because we're creatures of habit. And when you can train people and you can manage their expectations of, I'm going to be delivering information on this day at this time, or I know that if I go here, I will be able to see this. It's just that consistency of experience can be really important. And so the challenge sometimes can either be that people aren't consistent. So they start, they get really excited and they have this like thing, I'm going to post twice a week, every week, right? But then life happens and the holidays come up and then, something happens and then there's a weather event and then this happens and, it kind of all falls apart. So having a strategy is really important beforehand, a plan beforehand. And also, if you can, and I know time, people, money, resources, but if you have the ability to have the resource of having other people help you along that to maintain that consistency, that's really important. And the other one is also just making sure that you know which channel that you're going to be focusing on for each part of that. So not just from a paid standpoint with that consistency of advertising, but also from that unpaid standpoint, both in that lead generation as well as that brand building.
Fantastic. Another one that's come through is, given your experience, what do you see as a missed or untapped opportunity specifically for builders when it comes to digital branding? So, for example, like where other categories or brands do well and builders aren't doing well yet?
I think it's because the traditional advertising has been a focus in the past. And so I think sometimes people are afraid sometimes of what they don't know, or they think, oh, I'll just invest in one product and that will basically help me with everything. And so it's not just, it's making sure that the message that you want to get out there is right for the channel that's there, but also for the audience, so that the content is right, whether it's an image or whether it's written copy, but also that you're really aware of what audience is there and who's going to be looking at it, who's going to be taking advantage of it. And are those the people that you want either just to have that digital billboard experience or to actually click through? So those are some of the things. And also to get over some of the fear. The great thing about digital advertising and digital marketing in general, both paid and unpaid, is the ability to be flexible with it, is the ability to kind of try new things and try things to see if they work or not. And a lot of times you can do that without a huge investment of money. And so it's just, taking that time to take that jump into it and really saying, you know what, I'm going to try something new. I'm going to try this and this as well. And I'm going to see what that does moving forward. And when you work, especially with experts like yourself, who help people, figure out what's right and what's best for them, then they really can see how that can really grow from that space. And I think that that's a really cool thing, is watching people grow outside their comfort zone.
Yeah, I think that's a really good call out. I know, working with a number of builders and developers over the years, the ones that have kind of looked into other avenues, like how can we do something different, and the payoff is the reward is much higher than the risk in the end. So seeing the success that can be generated from it, I'd really put forward ideas and other avenues for my customers, because I know that it's their point of difference as well, which is something that you spoke about, making sure that there's a point like that differentiation, because we can all be builders or we can all be land developers. So hopefully with 2021, fresh start, there's some new ideas. Everyone's finishing off with a positive spin on things, and sales looking good. So maybe we might have a few things coming from REA that we might be able to put forward for you to take up. We've got one last question. I'm just conscious of time. What are you finding is most relevant for buyers' content or offer-wise at the moment? I could actually answer that.
That's you.
So at the moment, there's obviously a lot of information going around the announcements of stamp duty discounts, and also the home builder grant. The home builder grant's been in place since June now, and then we've just had the recent news, which I touched on at the start, around the extension, which is really exciting. We can see from, in terms of click-through rates and engagement rates, a lot of the creative that is out there through display campaigns on our site is actually engaging with ads that have information about those grants or stamp duties. So at the moment, I would be really pushing that. I know that with the extension, there's an opportunity to go, okay, well, this is going to run until March 30th next year. We need to make sure that we can get enough people into the pipeline and start nurturing them. So really taking on what Tara was talking about, building that brand, that awareness at the start, and then nurturing them into brand empowerment, I think you called it, or buyer empowerment, which I thought was a real buzzword. Really pushing those key messages whilst we can still, people are still eligible for the grant. I think sometimes, and we probably saw it more last year, where you've got 5K offers and things like that, it almost become, because everyone started doing it, it almost became a given for buyers. So again, just making sure that we're putting out new ideas and thinking a little bit differently. So that's my kind of view on things. And again, that's looking at the data that we can see on REA. Might wrap it up there. And Tara, thank you so much for today. Really insightful. I know I took a lot of notes, and I'm sure that many of the attendees did the same. What we'll do after this is we will send a recording out to all of the attendees, and there will be a deck which Tara went through, which will be in that email. Please reach out to your account manager if you have any further questions. But just want to say thank you once again from realestate.com.au. Loved having you today, and enjoy the rest of your week. Cheers.
Thank you.